Intro music.
Come on in.
A star for the ages for Tony Gwynn, number 3,000.
They have acquired Eric Johnson and Fernando Tatis Jr. from the White Sox in exchange for James Shield.
Welcome to Slam Diego!
My name is Joey.
My name is James.
And this is the Brothers Padre.
And in this episode, oh man,
James,
we talk about we got swept by the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Redbirds beat us. Listen, it finally puts the great debate. I mean, maybe it isn't the great debate. Like, which is the better Catholic order, the Cardinals or the Padres, right? I mean, that's Catholic joke.
Catholic joke.
All two of our Catholic listeners love it.
Yeah, I think it's like, we swept them earlier in the season.
Correct.
So it's at a draw right now.
Yeah. So we're going to do something a little different from here on out for the rest of the season. We're going to recap every series and then talk about what that means for us the rest of the year, because we're now at a very bad place in the season. We've been in a bad place for a while. But yeah, let's go through let's recap the St. Louis Cardinals series and just kind of go from there, because yeah, we have to talk about every series now, because the only way this goes well is if every series we win. But
The Padres still have a slim chance to make it to the playoffs. This latest homestand against the best team in baseball, Giants, and the Braves, to be competitive we have to take at least 2 out of 3 from the Giants and 3 out of 4 from the Braves.
right.
That's if that does not happen, the Padres do not make it to the playoffs.
Some would say that ship has already sailed, but we'll get there later, James.
Yes.
On Thursday of last week, we had a podcast. We're not going to replay it, but if you did check the tape, you would see that one of us was very deluded and thinking that things have turned around, and someone else was more conservative. So far, it shows out that the conservative person in this podcast was correct.
We were both pretty deluded. You said a winning record as well.
Yeah. Oh, man. St. Louis Cardinals welcome us into town. We talked about previously a Finnish architect made the St. Louis Arch. Remember that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It wasn't the McDonald arches. You ever think about, do you think McDonald's ever went to the city of St. Louis? It's like, here's $5 million. Paint it yellow for a year.
Probably won $5 million.
Like, come on, you want it. And St. Louis is like, nah, we have standards. Not many standards, so we have standards.
I've been to St. Louis. It doesn't have that many standards. Good barbecue place, though. I ate at a barbecue place in St. Louis once. There was a burger with pulled barbecue beef on top. It was pretty interesting and tasty.
Do you know what their famous alcoholic drink is? They're big daiquiri people, but not like daiquiris. Like they call them like frozen daiquiris. It's like alcoholic slushies.
Huh.
Yeah, cool. St. Louis facts. That's what our podcast is called now.
2 San Diegans, St. Louis facts.
We got decisively beat on Friday. St. Louis Cardinals beat us 8-2. Padres offense disappeared again.
Our amazing pitcher we signed, because nobody else wanted him, Vince Velasquez, did not do a good job.
Yeah, I don't know what to say there. He just got shelled, 8-2. Padres offense could get some hits, but never strung them together to make something cool happen.
That's the most frustrating thing with this weekend. Every game we had at least 7 hits.
Yeah,
and we couldn't string them together.
I don't know what else to say about this game. It just was. We were up by. I mean, let me go back to the box score. It was 4-2 in the 7th, and then bases got loaded in the 8th, and like, hey, Mr. Ross Detweiler, you've never pitched a high leverage inning in your life. Here's a guy with bases loaded. Don't throw any nothing breaking ball down the middle. Oh, he threw a nothing breaking ball down the middle, and it became a grand slam. And the game became very far out of reach after that point. Not that we could have won it anyway, because we just weren't hitting in succession.
Yes. The next game, however, Yu Darvish is back, and he had his best start in a month.
Yep. 7 innings pitched. Shut him out. 7 innings straight. And then we're like, okay, now let's bring in, I should just tell you the score. Padres lost 3-2. The Padres came up with 2 runs in the 4th inning, and against Adam Wainwright. Not old friend, but we faced him a lot, so we knew him kind of well. And it looked like it was going to be enough. The 8th inning rolls around. In what cannot be described as a non-important game, it was a very important game in a very important inning. Jace Tingler previously got ejected because he was arguing balls and strikes. There happened to be a brouhaha after that. We'll talk about that afterwards. And so it looked like we needed to win this game. 8th inning rolls around. The 8, 9, and 1 hitters are up. Skip Schumacher says, you know what? I have Pierce Johnson warming. I'm going to bring in my hypothetical high leverage person, Emilio Pagan. Emilio Pagan gives up 3 runs and the lead and the game. Past 7 games, including this one, he has a 14.81 earn run average. That means, on average, statistically, every 9 innings, the past 7 games, including this one, he gives up 14 runs.
Unbelievable. It was, and I
texted you. I was like, I want Pierce here. I thought it would have Pierce not locked down either.
I would have taken Nabil Krismat. Nabil Krismat has proven himself a better stress guy lately than Pagan. And the thing is, so Joey and I, we've talked about this before. We watch the games together.
Yeah.
He's in one town, I'm in the other, and we're texting back and forth. And they bring in Emilio Pagan, and I texted you, I can't watch. I'm walking out of the room.
Yeah.
And then you text me, the bad thing happened.
It was the most predictable. Like, if I was a gambling man and I had no morals against my home team and I lived in Las Vegas where gambling's legal and I had an Uber to a casino and I walked into the casino.
This is becoming a long analogy.
I would say, hey, that Emilio kid, he's going to give up the lead. And because it felt that sure, right? It did, right? Did you actually think he was going to succeed in that situation?
No, that's why I had to leave. I had to leave the room. I literally was watching the game. They're bringing in Emilio. I'm like, I can't watch him blow another lead. If he survives, fine. I just can't watch it. I've seen him have it.
I just told you the stat line.
Yeah, I've witnessed it with my eyeballs. This stats, and I had to leave. I could not handle it.
I tweeted this out on our Twitter page at Brothers Padre, and I tweeted that stat line, and I had a subsequent tweet where I said, it's not going to be the only reason why. This is why the Padres are going to miss the playoffs. But one of the reasons why we're going to miss the playoffs is that we as a team are not putting players in positions for them to succeed. When you are pitching badly in high leverage spots and you see that, the thing you don't do to allow that player to be better is put him in the same spot where he fails. Right?
Yeah.
This is management 101. This is whatever, learning 101. Oh, you want to be good at that? Okay, you're not doing so well. Let's put you in a lower leverage spot so you can learn to be that person again. It's not a detriment to the person. Just life is ever changing. Always new challenges, James, right? As Mr. Tony Robbins says, I was hoping you had a Tony Robbins quote. You don't know Tony Robbins. You know
Baskin Robbins guy or the?
No, I'm talking about
He's the weird guy with the funny face. That's motivational
he has
speaker.
gigantism. You can't call him a funny face guy.
Does he really?
Yeah, he does.
I just make fun. I did not.
But
know
he's
that.
also worth like $700 trillion. So I don't know.
Okay.
He's also kind of a con man. But don't take my word for it. So, but like all these things in life require change and adapting and learning. Some things we have challenges and then we learn to overcome them. You don't put yourself in a position of consistent failure to overcome that. You have to learn to build yourself up to that, right? You have to build, and the Padres see this, and Emilio can't handle this position, can't handle these high leverage innings, and they're like, "Oh, just kidding." Like this is the one you're going to turn it around. It's the same thing with Hosmer, the same thing with Pagan, right? You're 20. If we had an uncensored podcast, I'd drop another word here.
Yeah.
20-something games away from the end of the season, and you're still thinking someone's going to turn it around? What are we doing here?
It's true. Pagan was a high leverage guy in the beginning of the season. He did a lot of great things.
His slider actually worked earlier in the season too. That pitch he threw to Tyler O'Neill, like every single home run derby contestant had a better pitch than that pitcher, right? It was unbelievable how bad that pitch was. Tyler O'Neill loves breaking balls down the middle, like every sensible baseball player. Slider doesn't slide. It's just a nothing pitch. Same thing. I mean, Matt Carpenter was 0 for 30 in his last 30 at bats. And what does Emilio Pagan do? I'll throw you a breaking pitch that does nothing right in the zone. This is not unusual. We saw it in the Giants series. We saw it in the Dodgers series. Why do we expect the breaking ball to do things it hasn't done in 30 days?
Oh, I get it. And
I'm just a little annoyed.
it's very annoying because Tim Hill was still in the bullpen. Nabil Krismat was still in the bullpen. Pierce Johnson was still in the bullpen. Lamet, who hasn't been doing very good in his relief outings either, was still in the bullpen. Very, very winnable game. Hugh Darvish pitched his butt off. He was efficient. He was great. He looked like Hugh Darvish began the season. He looked healthy. His stuff had bite. His fastball had movement. He was fooling them. He deserved better. Also, the umpire was the strike zone. Literally, Hugh Darvish struck out 3 Reds with pitches that were 3 or 4 ball
Why do you
lengths.
always call them Reds?
Oh, the Redbirds. Redbirds. The Cardinals. I think Redbirds. Anyway, so he struck out 4 Cardinals with pitches about 3 or 4 ball lengths outside the zone.
Yeah.
The umpire just kept on calling them
He
a
was
strike.
awful.
So you can't, but again, several of the Padres will call that way too,
Right.
because the pitchers were like, well, if that's a strike now,
I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Was it Darnay Tripp on a baseball writer on Twitter literally like mapped out what the strike zone looked like. It was just like
It was ridiculous.
It was just like, what is that's not a strike zone. That's not a box.
Literally, Hugh Darvish threw a pitch that was to a right-handed Cardinal that was in the left-handed batter's box, and it was a strike.
It was rough. Oh, frustrating, but don't worry, James. More frustrations abound.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about more how frustration boiled over in this game, but Padres finished their series up against the Cardinals on Sunday, and the Cardinals beat us 8-7 on 11 hits, 1 error, and the Padres had 7 runs, 10 hits on 1 error. The Cardinals rode a very, very bad first inning from Jake Arrieta, who had a pulled groin, who was working through. Jake Arrieta gave up 5 earned runs, and the Padres battled back. But wasn't good enough. 3 runs in the 8th. But just still, like I said, wasn't good enough. 2 runs in the 5th. Sorry, 1 run in the 3rd, 2 runs in the 4th, 1 run in the 6th, and 3 runs in the 8th, but was not good enough to close the distance against Cardinals.
And that's how we're swept in St. Louis.
I mean, I, for one, am surprised that 2 former pitchers who were designated for assignment from their teams this year didn't seal the deal, but
no, I'm not either. And that was always the big question mark of the series. Can these 2 guys pitch? And do we blame?
we shouldn't have been swept.
We shouldn't have been swept. That middle game, it's embarrassing that we lost that game. That was 100% mismanagement. And here's a question. How much...
Are we just going into the... Well, keep going.
Just how much does a manager have control of his team after he's ejected?
I don't know.
Because I remember Bruce Bochy getting in trouble once because he was ejected, but he was still in the hallway making decisions, and an umpire came and yelled at him. And
Didn't Bobby Valentine once come out with a fake mustache and a hat?
Yeah.
No, that's Johnny Christmas. That's not Bobby Valentine.
Funny.
You love it.
He gets Ron again. He comes back as Ronald Easter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this game, the third game, 7-8 game was... Man, I mean, it's just bad pitching, right? But we don't have Chris Paddock. We don't have Blake Snell. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, we don't have it. We should have teed off even more. We only had 1 home. Like, it's crazy that, like, the only home run this series was by Tommy Pham.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's something that, like, is so lacking in the Padres offense. It's bananas. It just is. That we have no power. Okay.
It was a frustrating... That's why I'm 80% certain that the Padres season is over.
Yep.
If we can somehow scrape together...
Should we just talk about, before we do that, should we talk about the brouhaha?
We need to talk about the brouhaha.
Okay.
There was a brouhaha.
On Saturday, aforementioned bad strike zone was in effect. Fernando Tatis Jr. didn't like the strike 3, and actually the strike 3 might have been the more accurate strike 3 that Phil Cuzzi.
It was close, but it was probably a strike.
Right. Tatis was very annoyed, stood at the plate, and then got in the dugout.
That was a strike that pierced Tingler got ejected because he screamed out of the bullpen.
Because Tingler was like, I can't have Tatis Jr. be ejected from this game. I'll stick up for my players. Tatis then gets super annoyed, and it's hard to tell what the exact line of events are. Manny Machado then starts yelling at Tatis. And starts like getting into a brouhaha, an altercation. It's all over baseball Twitter. You can very easily find it. Obviously, tensions and passions are high. The clubhouse rightfully says that we're not going to talk about it. This is like not really your business. But from the looks of it, Manny Machado says, and you could hear it, this is not bleeping about you to Tatis. And the inference is, of course, is that your attitude and like you getting mad about strikes and balls and not being able to carry the team, it's not about you. It's a team sport, and you can't get ejected from this game. You can't be brooding about this kind of stuff. You need to.
Yeah, he screams, "You're the best baseball player in the world. Everyone knows it. We cannot get you out of the game. Like, it's not about you.
Right.
Get out and play baseball."
Right. People have hot takes about this, that there's trouble in the clubhouse. What are your thoughts about it, James? And because I think this is keep talking about it. We'll talk about it.
My thoughts are: beginning of July, the Padres had a very comfortable lead in the playoffs spot. Fernando Tatis Jr. was the shoo-in for the MVP. Since August 11th, the Padres have had the worst record in the National League. The Pirates have had more home runs than us. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a MVP candidate on a losing team, was on a winning team, now is on a losing team. The entire team is frustrated, and Fernando Tatis' stat line has not gone down. He is still producing MVP numbers.
Right.
Nobody else is, exception maybe Machado and Frazier, nobody else is producing right now. Nobody. And and so he's frustrated. He gets a bad call. He wanted to blow up. He's frustrated. He did. Manny Machado, who once was a superstar kid, the same age as Tatis, well documented his antics as a young kid. Now as the veteran, now as the guy of reason, yelling at Tatis, look, it's not about you. It's not. This is the team's first problems are not on you. If we want to keep winning, a chance of winning, you have to be in the game. And I think that what we saw was 2 months of frustration boil over in this kid who keeps producing. Yeah, he would act like a child, smashing things around. But we've seen older baseball players do it.
Yeah. He's so young, and I know it's like he's still an adult and he's still like whatever, but this is a very real thing that like if you really think about it, he's an athlete that's never not succeeded until now. He could discount 2019 as like, well, I was hurt for a lot of it, I can't really help my team, but I still like have like the world in front of me and there's a lot to be positive about. And 2020 was this magical year for the Padres, won the cultural moment for baseball, all across baseball in the middle of the season, and you could say, oh, well, all our pitchers got hurt and that's why we didn't go far in the playoffs. There's a lot of justification as to why the first 2 years of his career did not go well, right? I think you can justify that. And you think about it, like most star athletes have never not been the best and carried their team throughout high school, middle school, college. He walked off. Fernando Tatis Jr. was the reason why his local Dominican professional baseball team, coached by his father, won the title that year. He's lived up to big moments. He's never not succeeded. Then all of a sudden is right,
having his best year he's ever had.
Right. Facing the best competition the world has to offer, and it's just falling down. Yes, as we mentioned a lot in this podcast, baseball is a lot like life. You don't always get what you want. Most oftentimes you don't. Padres are awful. They're terrible. They are lots of things that aren't good. And he doesn't know how to handle that. He just doesn't. But conversely, the Padres don't either. It's just, that is, to me, it was, I talked to my brother-in-law about this, and he was like, yeah, this is just indicative of the entire clubhouse culture. Or not culture, it's frustration. It's like, this is not, they know they're so much better than this. But they're not. They are exactly what the results-oriented business, as Don Orsillo would say, and the results aren't good.
Yeah, correct.
And, like you said, we're the worst teams in August 11th. The Pirates have scored 20 more runs than us. insane. Like it's insane. One home run in an entire series. One.
Yeah, I get it. It is very, very frustrating, and I don't know. The thing is, like, people are saying, "Oh, this is Tingler's clubhouse atmosphere's fault." I don't know. I'm not in the clubhouse. I can't tell you, but I do know that he could be the most comforting guy in the world, but it's a results business, and everyone knows it, and everyone's seen the record. Everyone's seen their lead fall apart. Everyone is doing what they can to not have this happen, but it's just, it's very, very frustrating to watch. And I don't know, it's, as of right now, I don't know of a single fix that can fix it.
So the series ended, and then two big old articles came out. Kevin Acee wrote a big, huge piece that he's been working on for a few weeks about how the clubhouse did not like, and this, you got to take all of this somewhat with a grain of salt, because some players talk to media and some don't. Doesn't necessarily indicate the feeling of the clubhouse.
Exactly.
Kevin Acee claims that the clubhouse has been, and the record will show this, since the trade deadline, the morale has been super low. Whether it's because of people didn't want Hosmer to be traded and they're annoyed they didn't get Scherzer. I don't quite buy that 100% because they're baseball players, right? They've been on teams.
It's a part of the game they grew up playing and are currently playing.
I also don't want to believe that Hosmer's feelings dictate the performance of the clubhouse. Like, you just can't believe that, right?
No, and if that's the case, Hosmer has to go.
Right. If that really is the case, buy Hos. Because what AC and Dennis Lin seem to infer is that Tingler is going to be fired real soon. Which means it'll be manager number 4 in Preller's era. Do you know the old adage? If there are a bunch of jerks around you and you consistently find yourself among jerks, maybe you're the jerk.
Yeah. Well, it's that line from that movie, Lucky Number 11.
Yeah.
First person calls you a horse, you hit him in the nose. First person calls you a horse, you call him a jerk. Second person calls you a horse, you you hit him in the nose. Third person calls you a horse, you think about buying a saddle.
Right. If we are to believe, let's just entertain this, that it is this bad, that Tingler can't manage expectation, and AC and Lynn both made the point, a better manager would have diffused that situation way long ago with Tatis. Would have helped them set the expectation of a season better. Tingler has no major league management experience. And that is a skill.
And
right?
this is...
Right.
Again, we don't know because we're not there.
Yeah, right.
I just generally watching how he handles the players on the field and how he sticks up to the guys by getting thrown out stuff. He's a better manager than our previous manager.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I also think, again, not in the dugout. When we were looking to hire somebody else, there was all these other managers that are popping up. And when we hired Jace Tingler as a new manager, everyone said he's a young manager and that comes with problems. If the Padres hired a guy who's never been a manager before, a big league manager before, and expecting him to just fill those shoes, everyone knows young managers have problems. Everyone knows they have to learn how to run a clubhouse.
The players that talked to AC seem to infer that Tingler did not have their back. And once again, you got to just take all that with a little grain of salt. This is what I will take from this, though. And we'll talk about what the Padres can do the rest of the season. Because this is something we'll talk about. If it happens the way AC and Lynn are saying, it'll be a big deal for us to talk about after the season. Right? It just will be. It doesn't really matter if it's Tingler, Hosmer's fault. What matters is Peter Seidler and the ownership group gave $208 million to AJ Preller, and they're struggling to be a 500 baseball team.
Yes.
I know Preller has till 2026 to be our general manager, president of baseball operations. But do you really think they're the jerks?
I don't know.
And listen, we'll talk about AJ Preller forever about how good he is at developing talent and finding good trade assets. But his job is to run baseball operation, and baseball needs to be won for San Diegans to be happy. And you see this, and you're like, this is not a functioning baseball organization.
No.
They're not putting the people in place to let the players succeed to win baseball games.
I agree.
It's a little thought experiment, James. I love thought experiments.
Yes, you do. You constantly are experimenting with your thoughts.
I don't know what's so funny, but not that funny of a joke, but I find it very funny. If we're a truly bad baseball team, do you think Peter Seidler calls up Mr. Pirate? I don't know the owner of the Pirates' name is. Mr. Pirate. Johnny Pirate. Hey, Johnny Pirate. I'll trade you my entire baseball team for yours. What do you think Johnny Pirate says?
It would have to be yes, right?
Because we're not actually this bad of a team.
No.
So, what's going on, James? What's happening? It tells me that there's smell, there's stink in the ship. There's something bad.
Yeah, absolutely. There is definitely something.
Because even Johnny Pirate knows a good thing when it comes around.
Exactly. Johnny Pirate. I mean, he is a pirate. He's an opportunist. There is,
not as much of a thought experimenter as me, but he's an opportunist.
Yeah. What's the saying? There is something rotten in the state of Denmark. I think that's what it is.
We're mixing so many illusions and allegories.
Bottom line is this. There is some sort of fundamental breakdown in the Padres organization.
Yes.
We don't know what it is. I've been saying for a long time, I think it's analytics. We're not getting our guys the right amount of things.
I think you're more. I mean, obviously, I think you're right because look how the pitching's performing. Our starting pitchers that are our starting pitchers are doing great. They just are.
Yeah.
And you see Ben Fritz, how he handles information. He's like, oh, he's doing something there. But no, it can't possibly be the hitting coach. No, can't be that either.
Yeah. Two things are the biggest problem right now. I think it's the lack of information our guys are getting. And yes, we have had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
If Drew Pomerantz and Keona Kela were both healthy right now, we would not be in this situation.
Yeah.
Because remember, we were supposed to have Pagan, Kela, and Pomerantz were all going to be our rotating eighth inning guys.
Yep. Yeah.
And all of our starting pitching is hurt. So I think
it doesn't excuse the bats.
It does not at all.
So James, despite our conversating about this, the season's not over.
No, it's not at all.
Let me count the games. You know the games off how many games we have? 7, 10, 13.
13 games left.
We are 3.5 games out of the wild card. The Cardinals have run 8 in a row. They are currently in the second wild card spot.
For us to win the wild card spot, we have to get really good and the Cardinals have to start to falter. We have to win at least 8 or 9 of our last games. gonna be difficult because after the final homestand starts tomorrow, and after that we go to LA and San Francisco again.
The Cardinals are facing two teams the rest of the way. The Milwaukee Brewers for 7 games. Chicago Cubs for 6 games.
So they'll lose 5 to the
Brewers,
but win all 7 from the. Let's say they'll win 6 from the
Cubs.
The Cubs. It's doable. That's the problem. Like, it is doable.
Do you think Monday, September 20th is going to be the day they turn it around?
I don't know. I don't know what they could do.
We don't like transcript our podcast, but I guarantee you if we did, how many times did we say we need to fire Damian Easley?
In the last month?
Yeah.
A lot.
How can you look at this team that's last in standings since August 11th and has scored 20 less runs than the Pirates and be like, oh, the hitting's fine? Sure, only 2 guys can hit home runs, but yeah, that's fine. Sure, our $144 million contract first baseman is being outslugged by a arbitration eligible slap hitter, Adam Frazier. Isn't that bananas? That Adam Frazier is a higher slugging percentage than Eric Hosmer?
No, because I've seen them play.
He's a first baseman.
Oh, I know.
He literally can look like Daniel Vogelbach and play first base.
Yes.
No disrespect to Vogelmonster, right? Much love, right? Much love. Anyone that looks like a beer barrel, much love to me, okay?
As a man that looks like a beer barrel myself, I respect Vogelbach. You are my hero.
If he can play first base and slug 600, what are we doing? I don't know. Whatever. We've spilled enough ink on Hosmer, and it doesn't really matter what the problems are, because if we are to win, if we are to succeed, we need to go. And Craig Stammen said yesterday. Craig Stammen, by the way, went 4 2 innings pitched. First time he's done that since 2014. Craig Stammen's put in the work to make us.
Well, that's the frustrating thing. There are players that legitimately are good. I'll bring it up again. Nabil Krismat has been one of our best relievers this last month. Nothing. All of our hitters that have been doing well. That's it. We can't, and they can't seem to string together hits. They can't seem to get all the good guys to hit at once. It's just it seems like. Fernando Tatis has gotten several hits he got several hits, but they were all singles because they're pitching him differently. They're not pitching him in his hot zone, so he's just slapping singles around, which is fine. He's still getting on base and driving in runs.
It's just so frustrating. And I mean, there is no other way to say this, but we just squandered the past 2 months.
Yes.
There isn't. August had the easiest schedule of anyone in baseball, and we got swept multiple times by bad teams.
Yep.
And that's inexcusable. And if I was spending $208 million on anything, I'd want success.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't throw that kind of money around and expect, I don't know the right image to make, but imagine spending $200 million on a forest of trees and they all dies. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it. That's also a very fancy forest. What do you think the fanciest forest in the world is?
I've been to see the sequoias. Those are really pretty.
Pretty fancy.
As far as fancy goes, I know what probably one of the most expensive forests was in the world ever.
Which one was?
It's the forest that this is going to go very dark. The forest that the Nazis planted during World War II, and no one knew about it until
that's right.
On the 50th anniversary or the 100th anniversary of the Nazi Reich. Supposedly, it was 50 years. All of a sudden, all these trees bloomed, and there was like these 400 acres of trees and swastikas for every I thought was a law of planning and expense put in there, and it was like, oh, I guess they did that too.
I'm going to reject that as a fancy.
That's not to say fancy. I said most expensive. I clearly said most expensive.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with sequoias. I think you're right. Very fancy forest, nice and pretty, nice canopies.
Yeah,
very nice, very pretty. That was a nice little segment. We're not gonna do well. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's not a lot of hope left in me. I was hopeful on Thursday because we beat. I don't know if you noticed, the Giants are the best team in baseball, and we split a series with them, and we were hitting. So I had hope.
So did I. Lots of hope.
And then, so I don't have hope anymore. It got dashed. It's probably because I quoted Dua Lipa. I've decided that's the reason why we're not winning. I should have quoted someone more hopeful.
Or so many people know.
Yeah. Unbelievable, James. Unbelievable. I just don't want. Are you familiar with the poet T.S. Eliot, James?
I have read some of his work.
Yeah. His famous poem, of course. This is how the world ends. This is how the world ends. This is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. That's how I feel about the Padres season. Not a bang, a whimper.
You still have gonna go with a 5% chance of pulling it out.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, exactly.
James, until next time, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Twitter @BrothersPadre. You can see us tweeting at people, getting into stupid arguments from time to time. Join us in stupid arguments on Twitter. What's the point of Twitter if you can't have stupid arguments?
Exactly.
Until next time, James, go Padres.
Go Padres.
And there it is! Oh, doctor! You can hang a star on that, baby!